The space station Solara Prime floated like a jewel above the gas clouds of the world below. Its towers shone in gold and blue, reflecting light from 3 nearby suns. Ships from 100 different species came and went every hour. Small shuttles, giant freighters, and elegant diplomatic cruisers. Inside, the air was filled with strange scents, echoing languages, and the hum of endless machinery. Humans were new here. Barely a century had passed since they had joined the Galactic Concord. Among thousands of alien races, some older than Earth's entire history, humans were seen as young, curious, and sometimes foolish. Eli Voss knew this well. He stood quietly in the corner of the Grand Assembly Hall, watching the gathering of alien delegates. His dark hair was neatly tied back, his uniform simple. He was not a soldier, not a scientist, he was a linguist. His job was to listen, to record, and to understand. That was all he ever seemed to do. Listen. The hall was full of voices. The Karth Dominion delegates argued loudly with the crystalline envoys of the Falra Collective. The Ool representatives, their insectoid bodies covered in shimmering plates, clicked impatiently. In the middle of it all, a tall figure stood, Captain Thezra of the Karth. Her scales gleamed in the station's artificial light. Her voice was rich, confident, and sharp. Thezra was known for her victories, for her speed in battle, and for her wit that could cut like a blade. She had little patience for weaklings, and even less for humans. As Eli quietly observed the meeting, taking notes on his datapad, Thezra's golden eyes flicked toward him. "You there, human," she called, her tone half amused, half challenging. "You've been standing silent for an hour. Have you nothing to say, or do your kind only watch and nod?" Several alien delegates chuckled softly. Eli looked up. His expression didn't change. His brown eyes remained calm. "I was listening, Captain," he said gently. His voice was soft but steady. "Sometimes listening tells more than speaking." Thezra tilted her head. "Listening? That is what the weak say when they fear to speak." Eli smiled faintly, not in mockery but in quiet patience. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it is what the wise say when they know others are speaking too loudly to hear the truth." The room fell silent for a moment. A few delegates glanced at each other. Thezra gave a low rumble that could have been laughter or warning. "Clever," she said finally. "For a human." Then she turned away, the discussion continuing without him. Eli went back to listening, his face calm, his fingers moving quickly across the datapad as he translated several alien dialects in real time. He had learned early that, in this galaxy, silence was often mistaken for weakness. But silence, he believed, had power. The universe spoke in patterns and voices, languages within languages, and he had spent his life learning to hear them. After the meeting ended, the delegates began to leave in small groups. Thezra stayed behind, speaking to her aide. Her tail flicked with irritation. Eli approached slowly, his datapad held close to his chest. "Captain," he said politely, "you mentioned that the Karth Dominion received an encoded signal near the edge sectors. If possible, I would like a copy of the transmission for linguistic study." Thezra turned to face him, her golden scales catching the light. "You think you can read a message that our best analysts cannot?" "I can try," he replied. "Every language has a key. Sometimes it just needs a different listener." Her sharp teeth showed in a grin, brave words for one so soft-spoken. Eli met her gaze, not flinching. "Words can be soft," he said. "Meaning is not." For a brief moment, Thezra seemed uncertain how to respond. Then she barked a short laugh. "Fine, human. I will send the data to your station quarters. But if you fail, remember, I warned you not to waste my time." "I understand," Eli said simply. As he walked away, Thezra watched him, her expression thoughtful. There was something about the quiet human that unsettled her. Not fear, not threat, but depth. Like standing beside still water and realizing it hides an ocean below. Later that night, Eli sat alone in his small cabin. Through the window, he could see the curve of the planet below and the slow motion of the stars beyond. His datapad glowed softly as the encoded signal scrolled across the screen. It was unlike anything he had seen before. The structure of the message wasn't random, it was layered, recursive, almost alive. It reminded him of music, of pulse and rhythm, as though the signal were singing rather than speaking. He leaned closer, studying the patterns. There were repetitions, harmonies, even silences that seemed meaningful. He began to hum softly under his breath, matching the rhythm of the data. The screen flickered. Eli paused. The signal responded. A faint echo vibrated through the cabin's walls. For a moment, the air itself seemed to shimmer. Then it stopped. Eli's heart beat faster, but his face stayed calm. He made a quick note on his pad. Signal reacts to harmonic frequency. Possibly sentient. Must confirm origin. He leaned back in his chair, thinking. Whatever this signal was, it wasn't just data. It was something old, something that felt awake. The next morning, Thezra found him in the command hall again. She was giving orders to her officers when Eli entered, datapad in hand. "Captain," he said quietly, "I analyzed the signal. It isn't a message in the normal sense. It's a language that seems designed to test whoever listens to it." Thezra frowned. "Test for what purpose?" "I don't know yet," Eli admitted. "But it reacts to sound, to voice frequencies. As if it's waiting for someone to speak the right tone." Thezra crossed her arms. "You mean it's alive?" "Maybe not alive as we understand it," he said. "But aware, yes," one of her officers scoffed. "Human imagination. They see spirits in machines." Eli didn't react. He simply looked at the screen and tapped a few commands. The signal began to play again, a low hum that filled the room. It was haunting, beautiful and eerie at once. Everyone grew quiet. Then suddenly the hum shifted pitch. The control panels flickered. A faint pulse ran through the ship's systems. Thezra turned sharply toward him. "You did this?" "I only listened," Eli said calmly. It responded on its own. Her tail lashed once, but there was no anger. Only curiosity now. "You interest me, human. You say little, yet the universe seems to answer you." Eli looked at her, his expression unreadable. Perhaps the universe is tired of being shouted at. Thezra blinked, then gave a slow, rumbling laugh. "You are not what I expected, Eli Voss." "Few humans are," he said with a small smile. That night, Thezra stood by the observation deck watching the stars. The hum of the alien signal still echoed faintly through her mind. For the first time in years, she felt something unusual. Curiosity mixed with unease. In the reflection of the glass, she saw Eli again sitting quietly in the corner, eyes half closed as he listened to the endless rhythm of the cosmos. He looked so still, so calm, yet something about him felt vast. She found herself wondering, what name would such a quiet creature speak when it finally chose to speak at all? Days passed since Eli first heard the strange signal. The halls of Solara Prime continued to buzz with the voices of many species, yet for him, everything seemed quieter now. Every sound, the hum of engines, the rhythm of footsteps, even the whisper of recycled air, felt like part of a larger pattern. A song that only he seemed to hear. He had reported his findings to Captain Thezra. The next day, she called him to her command deck. Thezra stood before a massive holomap of the Concorde's outer territories. Her golden scales shimmered faintly in the light. She looked at Eli as he entered, her expression unreadable. "You said this signal responds to sound," she said. "I have spoken with the High Council. They want to know where it comes from." Eli nodded. "It's from the edge sectors, beyond the mapped systems. The origin point is close to the Veiled Nebula." Thezra folded her arms. "A dangerous area. No conquered ship has gone there and returned intact." "I know," Eli replied softly. "But if this signal is active, something out there wants to be found." Thezra stared at him for a long moment, then turned to her officers. "Prepare my ship. We will go." Her crew looked shocked. "Captain, that region is unstable," one said. "The nebula's radiation—" "I know the risks," Thezra interrupted sharply. "We'll take precautions." Then she looked back at Eli. "You're coming too, human. If you're wrong, I'll leave you there." Eli gave a small, calm smile. "If I'm wrong, Captain, the signal will stop us long before that." The ship Vera's Edge departed the next day. It was a powerful Karth vessel, built like a blade of metal and light. As they left Solara Prime, Eli stood by one of the viewing windows watching the stars stretch into thin white lines as they entered faster than light travel. He felt small. But that smallness did not frighten him. It reminded him of how vast the galaxy was and how much there still was to learn. Captain Thezra joined him briefly. "Do humans always stare at space like that?" she asked. "Sometimes," Eli said, still looking out. "On Earth, before we went to the stars, we used to look at the sky and dream. Some things don't change." Thezra tilted her head. "Dreams are for children." Eli smiled faintly. Maybe, but sometimes dreams build ships. For a moment, Thezra almost smiled too, though she quickly hid it behind a scoff. You speak well for someone who barely speaks at all. I only speak when there's something worth saying, Eli replied. As they traveled deeper into the edge sectors, the signal grew stronger. It pulsed through the ship's systems like a heartbeat. Sometimes the lights flickered in rhythm with it. Eli spent hours in the analysis room, listening to the hum through specialized equipment. He could feel something behind it, intelligence, intention. The more he listened, the more it felt like a voice trying to remember how to speak. One night, Thezra entered quietly and stood behind him. He hadn't noticed her until she spoke. You haven't slept, she said. I can't, Eli admitted. Every time I close my eyes, I hear it calling. Thezra frowned. Calling to you specifically? Eli hesitated. I don't know, but it feels familiar, like something buried deep in memory. Human memory? She asked. He shook his head. Older? Thezra studied him. His face looked calm, but his eyes held something ancient, something thoughtful. You talk like the old priests of my homeworld, she said. They used to claim the stars were alive. Maybe they are, Eli said softly. Or maybe they remember who built them. 3 days later, the ship entered the veiled nebula. It was beautiful and terrifying. Swirling clouds of blue and violet light surrounded them, broken by flashes of static energy. The ship's shields flared with every burst. Navigation became unstable. Eli stood at the command deck beside Thezra. His datapad displayed the signal, now a steady rhythm like a heartbeat close by. We're close, he whispered. Thezra's second officer looked nervous. Captain, radiation levels are rising. We should turn back. But Thezra's golden eyes were fixed on the view ahead. Not yet. We came for answers. Then the signal suddenly changed. The hum became a deep tone that vibrated through the hull. The lights dimmed, then brightened again. On the screen, something appeared. A massive structure floating in the middle of the nebula. It was shaped like a ring, miles wide, its surface carved with symbols no one recognized. It looked ancient, older than any known civilization. Parts of it glowed faintly, pulsing in time with the signal. Eli's breath caught. That's it. That's where it's coming from. Thezra stared. That thing is transmitting? Yes, Eli said. And it's waiting. Thezra turned to her crew. Hold position. Prepare a scan. The ship's scanners began to pulse, sending waves of energy toward the ring. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the signal answered. The deck shook. Lights flickered. The crew cried out as systems overloaded. The ship's alarms wailed. Shields down to 40%. Someone shouted. Thezra grabbed the console. What's happening? Eli's voice cut through the chaos, calm but urgent. It's not attacking, it's testing us. And testing? Thezra shouted. It's destroying the ship. No, Eli said. It's measuring our reaction. It wants to know how we respond to fear. Thezra turned to him, eyes blazing. And how do we stop it? Eli took a deep breath. By answering, he moved toward the main console. Thezra watched as he touched the controls and began to input sound frequencies. What are you doing? She demanded. Listening, he said simply, and answering in kind. He adjusted the ship's audio output to emit a tone, low, steady, harmonic. The strange vibrations in the hull began to shift. The lights stopped flickering. The ship steadied. Thezra stared at him in disbelief. You calmed it? Eli nodded slowly. I spoke in its language. Her voice softened. You can do that? Not perfectly, Eli said, but enough to show respect. Thezra's gaze lingered on him. For the first time, there was no mockery in her tone, only curiosity. How did you learn this? Eli looked out the viewport at the glowing ring. Humans used to listen to the wind, the ocean, the stars. We learned that everything speaks if you know how to hear it. Hours passed. The ship floated near the ring in silence, system stable again. The crew rested, but Eli remained at his post, eyes fixed on the pattern of light running along the ancient surface. Thezra joined him. You said it's waiting. For what? Eli hesitated before answering. For a name. A name? She repeated. Yes, he said. It's asking who we are. But not just what species or nation. It wants to know what kind of mind we bring when we come here. Thezra frowned. And if we answer wrong? Then it will stay silent forever, Eli said quietly. And maybe it should. Thezra studied him again, the quiet human who never shouted, never argued, yet spoke with a kind of calm strength that even she respected now. "You are different from the others of your kind," she said finally. Eli smiled faintly. "Maybe. Or maybe this is what humans are really like when they stop trying to prove themselves." Thezra looked away, thoughtful. "You make the stars sound like they listen to you." "Maybe they do," he said, almost whispering. "Or maybe they're just waiting for someone to remember their language." As the ship orbited the ancient ring, the crew made preparations to send a small exploration team. Thezra insisted on leading it herself. She also ordered Eli to come with her. When he asked why, she simply said, "Because it's your voice it listens to." That night, Eli sat in his cabin again. He looked at the pattern of light flickering outside the window, matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. He could almost hear the signal whispering through the walls, not words but meaning. It was saying, "Come closer." Eli closed his eyes and breathed deeply. "Soon," he whispered back. The ring hung before them like a sleeping giant. Its surface glowed faintly, carved with strange symbols that seemed to move when no one was looking. Every few minutes, the ship's sensors picked up a soft pulse, like the slow, steady beat of a heart. Captain Thezra stood on the bridge, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the massive structure. Around her, the crew worked in tense silence. The hum of the engines and the gentle vibration of the ship were the only sounds. Eli Voss stood beside her, calm as ever, watching the glowing lines on his datapad. His fingers moved slowly, tracing invisible patterns in the air as if he could feel the rhythm of the signal through his skin. Thezra finally broke the silence. "You're sure it's safe to approach?" "No," Eli said softly. "But I don't think it means harm. It's curious, not angry." She gave a low chuckle. "You sound like you're talking about a living thing." "Maybe it is," Eli said, glancing at her. "Not alive like us, but aware." Thezra looked back at the ring. "Then let's see what it wants." She turned to her crew. "Prepare the shuttle." An hour later, the small shuttle detached from Vara's edge and glided toward the ring. The nebula's light shimmered around them, painting the cockpit in shades of blue and purple. Thezra sat in the pilot seat, her hands steady on the controls. Eli sat behind her, watching as the vast surface of the ancient structure grew larger in the viewport. As they neared the outer rim, the shuttle's sensors flickered. Static filled the air and the soft hum of the signal grew louder, surrounding them like a low, endless song. Eli closed his eyes. "It's speaking again," Thezra frowned. "I don't hear words." "It's not words," Eli whispered. "It's meaning, emotion. It feels like recognition." "Recognition?" she repeated. "Yes, like it knows us." Thezra glanced at him, unsure if he was serious, but then for a moment, the symbols on the ring brightened, forming a faint spiral pattern that mirrored the shape of the Milky Way galaxy. Eli smiled faintly. "See, it remembers." They landed near a vast archway carved into the ring's surface. The metal beneath their boots was cold but smooth, untouched by time or decay. No atmosphere, no wind, only silence. The stars above were motionless, distant, like eyes watching them. Thezra adjusted her helmet's comms. "This place feels wrong, or old," Eli said. "Old things can feel strange because we forgot how to listen to them." She gave a quiet huff. "You and your listening," he smiled. "It's kept us alive this long." They stepped through the archway into a long corridor that stretched deep into the structure. The walls pulsed with soft light, each pulse matching Eli's heartbeat. It made him uneasy, but also connected, as if the ring was breathing with him. After several minutes, they entered a vast chamber. It was circular, with a tall pillar in the center surrounded by a ring of floating crystal shards. Energy flowed between them, humming softly. Eli stared in awe. "It's a resonance core," he murmured. "It's alive." Thezra raised an eyebrow. "Alive? It's a machine." Eli shook his head. "Not just a machine, it's a listener." Before Thezra could respond, the hum deepened. The light from the crystals grew brighter, and a vibration filled the air so strong that it made their helmets tremble. Eli fell to one knee, clutching his head. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt deep in his bones, in his mind. Thezra grabbed his arm. "Voss, what's happening?" He gasped, struggling to speak. "It's searching." "For what?" "For memory." The chamber filled with light. Images flickered around them, blurry, dreamlike visions of stars forming, planets rising and falling, civilizations appearing like sparks and fading again. Thezra could barely breathe. "What is this?" Eli's voice was faint. "History. Not just of one world, of many. This is how it remembers." Then the images shifted again and Thezra saw something strange. Humanoid figures walking under alien skies, their hands raised toward the stars. They were human, or close to it. Her voice trembled. "Are those?" "Yes," Eli said quietly. "Humans." The vision faded and the light dimmed. The chamber returned to silence, but now Eli was shaking. His helmet's visor fogged from his breath. Thezra knelt beside him. "Are you hurt?" He shook his head slowly. "No, it spoke to me." "What did it say?" Eli looked up, his eyes wide with awe. It said, "You remember our name." They returned to the shuttle in silence. Thezra could see that Eli was deep in thought, his expression distant, almost haunted. When they finally lifted off from the surface, she turned to him. "What does that mean, you remember our name?" "I think it means humans have been here before," he said softly. "Long before history began, that's impossible. Humanity only left its planet a few centuries ago." "Maybe," Eli said, staring out the window at the vast ring. "Or maybe we're not the first to wear these faces." Thezra frowned. "You're saying humans are descendants of something older?" "I don't know. But the signal called me by something I felt, not heard. A sound I can't forget." "What kind of sound?" Eli hesitated. "A name. My true name." Thezra blinked. "Your true name?" He nodded. "Not the one I was given. The one buried deep inside. All humans have it. It's not a word, but a tone. The frequency of what we really are." Thezra stared at him, confused and fascinated. "And the ring recognized it?" "Yes, that's why it stopped attacking. It wasn't trying to destroy us. It wanted to see if anyone still remembered." Back on Vera's edge, the ship's crew gathered to hear their report. Thezra explained the strange structure, the resonance core, and how it reacted to the human linguist's voice. Some officers looked skeptical, others afraid. "This thing could be a weapon," one said. "We should alert the conquered." Thezra's voice was calm but firm. "It's not a weapon. It's something else. Something that wants to teach us." The officer frowned. "Teach us what?" Before Thezra could answer, Eli spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried through the room. "Who we were, and who we still can be." The crew fell silent. There was something in his tone that made even the most hardened Karth soldier pause. It wasn't pride or arrogance, it was certainty. Later, in the quiet of her quarters, Thezra replayed the recordings from the mission. She watched the light patterns, listened to the hum. Each time Eli spoke near the signal, the frequency changed, as though the ring were answering him personally. She leaned back in her chair, thoughtful. She had laughed at him once, called him timid and weak. But now, she couldn't shake the memory of how calmly he faced the unknown, how his silence commanded more power than most voices ever could. She remembered the way the alien structure had bowed its light toward him, like a teacher recognizing a long-lost student. For the first time in years, Captain Thezra felt something strange. Respect. Eli, meanwhile, sat alone in the observation deck. The stars outside blinked faintly through the nebulous haze. He held his datapad in his lap, but he wasn't reading. He was humming softly, a low, deep tone that seemed to fill the room with warmth. When he stopped, the faint hum of the signal echoed back, matching his rhythm perfectly. Eli smiled to himself. "I hear you," he whispered. And somewhere beyond the stars, the ancient voice whispered back, "Then come and remember." The ship Vara's Edge floated in silent orbit around the ancient ring. The nebula outside shimmered in slow, gentle waves, painting the darkness with purple and blue light. Inside, the crew worked quietly, voices hushed, eyes uneasy. They had all seen what the ring could do. None of them understood it, but all of them had felt it. Captain Thezra stood on the bridge, her golden eyes fixed on the data feed from the resonance core below. Lines of glowing symbols scrolled across the screen, changing faster than even the ship's computers could process. And yet one man could follow them. Eli Voss sat beside the console, calm and silent, his fingers tracing invisible patterns on the glass. His lips moved slightly, whispering words no one could hear. Thezra finally broke the silence. "It's been hours. Have you found anything?" Eli didn't look up. It's not about finding, it's about listening. The signal is changing, adapting. Adapting to what? To us, Eli said softly. To me. Thezra frowned. You said it remembered humans, but how could it know your voice? Eli hesitated. Then he looked up, his eyes steady and calm. Because it doesn't just know me. It knows what I am. It knows what we all are. Thezra leaned closer. You said before that it spoke to you, that it said you remembered its name. What did it mean? Eli took a deep breath. Long ago, before we were humans, before Earth even had cities or machines, our ancestors looked up at the stars and heard something. They didn't understand it then, but they felt it, like a call in their dreams. He touched the screen where the alien symbols formed spirals and waves. This signal is the same. It's not just sound, it's a key. It connects to something hidden in us. Hidden? Thezra repeated. Yes. Every species carries memory in their DNA. But humans, we carry something else too. A pattern, a frequency. The same one this structure uses. That's why it reacts when I speak. Thezra's tail flicked in surprise. You mean this thing was made by humans? Eli shook his head. Not by humans as we are now, but maybe by what came before us. The ones who first gave us the spark. The ship's lights flickered suddenly. A deep tone filled the air. A sound like a choir of 1,000 voices humming at once. The walls vibrated gently, and the crew froze. Thezra turned sharply. What's happening? Eli stood, eyes wide but calm. It's calling again. Can you stop it? No, Eli said quietly. But I can answer. Before she could stop him, he walked toward the center of the bridge, where the main communication console stood. The hum grew louder, filling every corner of the ship. Some of the crew covered their ears. Others stared in awe as patterns of light began to swirl across the walls. Eli touched the console and began to speak, not in galactic standard, not even in any human language. The sound that left his mouth was pure tone, smooth, deep and full of emotion. It was like music, like memory, like something ancient remembering itself. The hum from the ring shifted instantly to match his voice. Thezra felt her chest tighten. The light around them brightened, flowing like liquid gold. The air itself seemed alive. Eli, what are you doing? She shouted over the noise. He didn't stop. The tone he produced rose and fell like breathing, and the ring outside pulsed brighter with every note. Thezra grabbed his shoulder. You'll overload the ship. Eli finally opened his eyes. They glowed faintly in the golden light. I'm not fighting it. I'm helping it remember. The hum reached a peak, then suddenly stopped. Silence fell. The bridge lights dimmed back to normal. No one moved. Then a new sound filled the air. A single soft voice. It was neither male nor female, neither human nor alien. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. We know you now, it said. The crew gasped. Thezra stared around, her hand on her weapon. Who's speaking? Eli turned toward the sound, his face calm. The construct. It's awake. The voice continued. We are the echo of the first ones. Long have we waited for your kind to remember the name. Eli swallowed. And what name is that? Your own. He frowned. Our own name? The word before words, the voice said. The sound of creation. It was yours once before time took it from you. Thezra whispered. You mean humanity had another name? Eli closed his eyes. Yes, the true name. Thezra looked confused. But how can a name hold such power? Eli smiled faintly. Because it's not a word. It's a resonance. A pattern that matches the rhythm of life itself. Thezra stared at him, speechless. The light shifted again, forming a sphere in the air before them. Inside it, stars flickered and moved, showing images. The rise of civilizations, the birth of galaxies, the spark of life across countless worlds. The voice said, When the first Ones walked the stars. They planted their essence in the young species. They gave them the gift of awareness. But only one carried the full song. Eli whispered, "Humans. Yes, you are their echo, their memory, their promise." Thezra felt her heart race. Then, humanity is descended from them. Not descended. Continued. The word echoed through the ship, vibrating deep in their chests. Thezra turned to Eli. "Why you? Why does it respond only to you?" Eli's eyes were full of quiet wonder. "Because I spoke the name without knowing it. Every human carries it inside, but I listened long enough to hear it again." The sphere faded and silence returned. Thezra exhaled slowly. "So that's what you are, a bridge between what was and what is." Eli shook his head. "Not me alone. All of us. Every human, every dream, every spark of curiosity. It's all part of that name. We were made to remember it." He walked to the window, staring out at the glowing ring. "And maybe, to remind the rest of the galaxy what it means to be alive." Thezra stepped beside him. "You think the others will believe this?" Eli smiled faintly. "They don't need to. Truth doesn't vanish because someone laughs at it." Thezra chuckled softly. "You humans always surprise me. You're fragile, small, but somehow—" She paused, searching for the word. "Infinite." Eli turned to her. "That's what the name means, I think. Not power, not control, just being endless." A low pulse vibrated through the deck again, gentle this time, like a heartbeat. The construct outside was still active but calmer, almost peaceful. Eli touched the window and the light responded, forming a faint glow beneath his palm. He spoke softly. "Thank you." The voice answered one last time. "The name is remembered. The song continues. Go now, children of the first dawn." The light dimmed completely. The signal faded. Thezra turned to Eli. "It's gone." He nodded. "No, just resting. It's done its part." She looked around the silent bridge. The crew was staring at him with quiet respect, even awe. A few days ago, they had laughed at the quiet human who barely spoke. Now none of them could meet his eyes for long. It wasn't fear, it was reverence. Eli walked past them calmly, heading for the observation deck. Thezra followed him. "Where will you go now?" He looked out at the stars. "Home. There's something I need to tell my people." "What will you tell them?" He smiled gently. "That we were never lost. We just forgot the song." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The nebula glowed softly beyond the window, and the ship drifted in silence. Finally, Thezra said quietly, "When I first met you, I thought humans were harmless. Quiet, weak." Eli turned slightly, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "And now?" She looked at him, then back at the stars. "Now I think silence can be the loudest sound in the universe." Eli nodded. "It just needs the right name." Thezra smiled. A rare, genuine smile. "Then speak it, human." Eli closed his eyes. The hum of the ship seemed to fade as he whispered a single tone, a pure, soft note that carried warmth and peace. It was not a word, not a language, but something older. And for a moment, the stars outside seemed to shimmer in answer. When he opened his eyes, the light had changed. It was brighter, softer, alive. Humanity had spoken again, and the universe had listened. The journey back to Solara Prime was quiet. The great ship Vara's Edge moved slowly through the stars, carrying with it something more than metal and life. It carried a truth, a memory that belonged to humanity and perhaps to the universe itself. Eli Voss sat near the wide observation window, his hands folded in his lap. Outside, the stars drifted by like silver dust. He felt calm but also thoughtful. He had seen something he could never explain completely. How could he tell others that the stars themselves had spoken? Captain Thezra stood near him, watching him quietly. She had seen him transform from a quiet man of few words to something else, something greater. He was still gentle, still calm. But now he carried an invisible weight, the kind that comes with knowledge too old and too vast for words. "You've been staring at the stars since we left," Thezra said. "Do they still talk to you?" Eli smiled faintly. "They always do. We just forget to listen." She gave a small rumbling laugh. "Humans and their strange poetry. Maybe," Eli said softly. "But sometimes poetry is just the universe remembering itself." The news of their discovery spread quickly through the Galactic Concord. When Vera's Edge docked at SciFi-Prime, hundreds of delegates, reporters, and officials gathered to hear the report. The station lights burned bright and every screen showed the same headline: "The Ancient Ring Awakens, the Human Who Spoke to the Stars." Eli didn't like attention. He stayed near the back of the assembly hall while Thezra gave the official account. She spoke with her usual strength, but there was something new in her voice: respect. She described how the ring had responded to sound, how the human linguist had calmed it when every machine failed, and how the ancient voice had recognized humanity as its children of the first dawn. When she finished, the hall was silent. Then slowly applause began. Some clapped politely, others with awe. A few simply stared at Eli, as if seeing him for the first time. Later, in a private meeting, the Concord Council asked for details. They were composed of beings from many worlds, shimmering lights, scaled giants, creatures of mist and crystal. One of them, a tall being of silver light, leaned forward. "Human Eli Voss," it said, "you claim that this true name is within all of your species. Can you prove this?" Eli thought for a moment, then shook his head. "Not in a way you would measure. It's not a code or formula. It's a feeling, a connection. The first sound that ever was." The council exchanged glances. Another delegate, shaped like a sphere of liquid metal, spoke. "And what will humans do with this knowledge?" Eli's answer was calm and honest. "We will remember it. And we will share it not as power but as peace." The first being nodded slowly. "Peace is rare in this galaxy." Eli smiled gently. "Maybe that's why it chose to speak to us." After the meeting, Thezra found him walking alone through the station's gardens. The air smelled faintly of metal and flowers from a dozen worlds. Artificial birds sang softly in the glowing trees. "You handled them well," Thezra said, joining him. "You could have claimed glory, power, but you didn't." Eli shrugged lightly. "I didn't earn the name. I just remembered it." Thezra tilted her head. "Still, it's strange. You've made all of us think differently about you humans." He looked at her. "Before you laughed at the quiet human," Thezra smiled. "Yes, I did. And now?" he asked softly. "Now," she said slowly, "I understand that quiet can be strength. You didn't fight. You didn't threaten. You simply spoke truth, and the stars themselves listened." Her golden eyes softened. "You've changed something in me, Eli Voss," he nodded. "Maybe that's what the true name does. It reminds us that listening can be louder than shouting." Days turned into weeks. Reports came in from other parts of the galaxy. Ancient machines, long silent, were waking again. Each one sent faint signals similar to the ring. Some ships reported hearing strange harmonies in deep space. It was as if the universe itself had begun to hum again, quietly but steadily. And everywhere that sound reached, people paused, not out of fear but wonder. Eli spent most of his time studying these new signals, teaching others how to hear them. He trained linguists, scientists, and even children to listen not with ears but with hearts. Meaning, he would say, is not always written in words. One evening, Thezra visited him again. They stood side by side on the station's balcony, watching ships rise and fall through the glowing docks. "The Council is forming an exploration fleet," she said. "They want to find more of these ancient places. They've asked me to lead it." Eli turned to her. "And they want me to go too?" She nodded. "They said no one else can hear the stars like you." He looked out at the black sea of space, quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "Then I suppose I'll go. There's still more to learn." Thezra laughed softly. "You humans never stop searching, do you?" "That's what we are," he said. "Curiosity wrapped in flesh." She gave a small nod. "And hope," she added. "Don't forget that." The next morning, before their departure, a small ceremony was held. The Concord honored the crew of Vera's Edge. The hall was filled with representatives of 100 species. When Thezra's name was called, The crowd cheered loudly. When Eli's name was called, the room went silent, not from disrespect, but from reverence. Everyone wanted to hear what the quiet human would say. Eli stepped forward, his voice calm and warm. "I'm not a hero," he began. "I only listened. The stars have been speaking for ages. They speak through light, through wind, through the beating of hearts. All I did was answer." He paused, looking around the room filled with beings of every kind. Every world, every species carries something special. The ring didn't call us to worship it. It called us to remember that we're all connected. If humans have one gift, it's not strength or technology. It's the ability to listen, to see meaning where others see silence. He smiled gently. So if there's one lesson in all this, it's simple. Sometimes the quietest voice carries the loudest truth. When he finished, there was no applause at first, only silence. Then slowly, the hall filled with soft, echoing sounds, tones and hums, each species offering their own voice in harmony. It was not clapping. It was music, an answer. Thezra watched him, pride shining in her eyes. That night, as the fleet prepared to leave, Thezra found Eli in the docking bay. The stars reflected in the windows like tiny lamps. "You know," she said, "the universe is going to remember your name." Eli smiled. "It's not my name that matters. It's the one we all share." Thezra tilted her head. "The true name?" He nodded. "Yes, the sound of unity." They stood in silence for a while, listening to the hum of the engine starting up. The sound was deep and calm, like a heartbeat, a reminder that even machines could sing if you listened closely. Before they boarded, Thezra looked at him once more. "I laughed at you once," she said softly. At the quiet human who stood in the corner, too afraid to speak. Eli chuckled. "I remember." "And now," she said, her voice gentle, "I laugh again, but this time it's because I understand." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Understand what?" She smiled. "That sometimes silence is not emptiness. It's patience waiting for the right moment to speak." Eli nodded. "And when that moment comes, then the whole universe listens," she said. As the fleet's ships rose from Solara Prime, streaks of light filled the blackness. They moved together, shining like a river of stars flowing into the unknown. In his seat, Eli closed his eyes. He could hear the faint hum of space beyond the walls, the same ancient tone that had started it all. But now it felt different, stronger, peaceful. He whispered softly, "We remember." The sound seemed to echo back, faint but clear, through the stars themselves. And somewhere in the vastness of the galaxy, the ancient rings glowed faintly in answer, as if smiling. The universe had found its voice again, and it began with a quiet human who listened.